Why should you get involved and not let fear hold you back? Stay tuned and find out.
Welcome. Okay, here's the question.
You serious?
How are we dark horses? You know, the ones everyone is betting against, the ones they don't expect to win, place, or even show on the track, and they'll even laugh on us when we talk about trying. How do we show the world our greatness and triumph?
Come on.
Well, that's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers.
Let's go.
This is The Dark Horse Entrepreneur. My name is Tracy Brinkman.
And push it out.
What is up? What is up, my Dark Horse friends and family? Welcome back to your weekly dose of Getting Involved Learning. I'm your Dark Horse host, Tracy Brinkman, and you? Well, that, my friend, is infinitely more important. You are a driven entrepreneur or business owner, or maybe you're just getting started in either one of those ventures. Either way, you're here because you're ready to start, restart, kickstart. Just start leveling up with some great marketing, personal, or business results in order to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. And as I always say, I have a big episode. No, you know what? Scratch that. I have a huge episode for you today. Today, Jonathan Wichman talks about going from being a homeschooled only child to college, finding his passion for computers, to building a small business for himself. And now his current journey? Well, that hopefully will lead him to the governor's house here in Wisconsin. Jonathan has a unique and even refreshing take on politicians and how so many of us are passionate about how we treat ourselves, our clients, and our customers. Much like I discussed back in episode 244, treat your staff like superstars, not just customers. Don't just treat your customers like that. He even has some very insightful and passionate thoughts around the hidden tax that we're all paying in our daily lives and our business lives. John is a story of getting involved. Are you getting involved as much as you should be? Let's hope so. Let's hope Jonathan's story leads you to say yes if you're not already getting involved. And if you are already involved, man, damn it, 2 huge thumbs up for you. But maybe you need to get more involved. Now, normally I have my huge thoughts at the end of this episode, and I may drop in a couple of nuggets, but what Jonathan says here, I really want to leave that for you to hear and to process. And as per usual, the dark horse, I can't even speak today. See, I'm all fanboying about Jonathan here. So let's get to that again. As per usual, the Dark Horse corrals are chock full of personal, business, and marketing GOLD spilling from every corner of the Dark Horse Entrepreneur HQ. So let's get to the starting gates and go. All right, my man, Jonathan Wichman, thank you so much for showing up and welcome to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur.
Thank you, Tracy. It's great to be here.
Yeah, like I was sharing with you earlier, we got to shake hands at that event not too long ago over there in Dodge County, and I was so impressed with you, and I wanted to bring you on to share some of your story. So I'm literally going to hush my mouth right now so that you can do that. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly that you've been through that brought you to where you are, and the adventure that you're trying to go on next as well.
Sure. Well, I appreciate podcasts like yours because it does give everyone an opportunity to share their story. And I think sometimes the misconception around like politicians, I think people see that, politicians tend to stay with a specific general kind of, line, right? But not many of them are very real or want to be transparent in their life. And I think that's sad. I think we need more truth and transparency. But to my story, I grew up an only child, homeschooled. My father worked for MPS, Milwaukee Public School System, as a janitor, high pressure boiler operator. I came from a lower middle income, family. I mean, probably looking back in the 90s there, the average, was about 40,000, right? 42,000 a year or something like that. So, grew up in a 900 square foot home, very humble, modest means, but my old dad always taught me, have a good work ethic, whatever your hand, finds, put all your strength into it and see it through. He also put a lot of value on education. And so he saw the direction that the public school system was going, and he didn't want me to have that experience. So my mother and him decided to homeschool me, and I was homeschooled all the way up to college. So it was a really great experience. And what I liked about it most was, we had the reading, writing, arithmetic, we had the fundamentals, but there's also time for me to explore things that I was naturally interested in or was kind of, attracted to. And one thing early on that I was attracted to was computers. Our first early IBM computer, I can't even remember the specs on that machine. It was like, some ridiculous low amount of processing power and RAM.
Right. I remember those.
Yeah. But Windows 95 was the first, terrible operating system that we put on there. And there's no, the internet, yes, but it wasn't like what it was today, right? With YouTube and everything.
Right.
So you were kind of experimenting, like, what is this thing I'm doing here? And my dad was obsessed with editing the registry for some reason. I don't know why. And that would crash the computer. So we had to reinstall 95 so many times. I can't remember. But I got interested in programming. So one of the first languages I learned was basic programming. And then also as the web began to develop, I learned HTML. And I was fascinated with that because I really loved creating. So creating the programs and then the web pages. And then, of course, Google came along. And Google was like, wow, there's this thing called a search engine. You can type in some words and find, index of websites. So I realized early on that, there's going to be money to be made here in business. And so when I went to college, I was interested in that. So I double majored in business and information systems, management information systems. But during that time, I was really heavily into programming. So I built a lot of websites freelancing. And when I began freelancing there on a lot of those freelance websites, that's where the entrepreneur spirit came into play, hustling jobs, bidding out projects, getting screwed over. Really, I remember doing this one project and releasing the files, in good faith. And I never got paid for the work. So you learn those hard lessons, right? And you learn how to protect yourself. But then, after college, I went into corporate world, doing a lot of the same things, marketing, developing. I got tired of the corporate life. I just did. I saw how they were treating people. It was unnecessarily cutthroat, honestly. I glazed through some of your podcasts, and you talk about treating your employees. Was it better than the customer or something like that, right? Treating your employees, and I never saw that really. There was one company I worked for where they did a really awesome job of that. They really did. They changed my life in a profound way. And I said, I want to take that attitude and philosophy, and I want to take that with me. And so about coming up on 8-9 years ago, I started my own company, my own, digital marketing agency. So I work with a lot of different businesses, and I generate sales and leads for them, through the internet. My experience is driving a lot of business off the internet, especially, using Google to the advantage there. Mm-hmm. So the thing though, being a small business owner is, the taxes. The taxes that you have to pay and the loopholes that aren't there like they are for multinationals. And being an economics and finance guy, very obsessed with Wall Street way back in the day. Still am. I do my own trade investing now, but I just got to see how corrupt Wall Street was. And then I began to learn the incestual relationship, that's what it is, between the federal government and Wall Street and the Federal Reserve. I mean, they're all tied into place, right?
Yeah.
And with the Federal Reserve having unlimited power to create money out of thin air, that gives the federal government the ability to spend endlessly and to drive, national debt and deficits way up. And the problem is, though, it has a huge negative impact on all of us, and so we, the American citizens, keep becoming more impoverished, and it's a hidden tax, so people don't really understand what's happening to them, which is unfortunate. And here we go, we're coming into a complete decay and collapse of America, and so I said enough. So I'll stop there because I know Tracy, I'm half Italian, so I could talk and talk and talk. But there's so much backstory that brought me to this point in today, where I decided to run for governor about 15 months ago.
So, and there's the big one. So, there's a lot to unpack there. First,
yeah, there is. Right? I apologize.
That's great. This is good stuff. And I want to back up a little bit. So, I think the first thing that caught my ear was your dad saw, back when you were a youngster, that the public school system isn't all that hot for you, and he's like, "No, we're going to homeschool my guy," and obviously it paid off pretty well over time. And yeah. I think. Do you think his insight, being on the inside, looking at it, helped him form that? I know, for sure. And I asked because my wife, she's not now, but she was a teacher in the school system, and she actually chose to do that specifically so that she could keep an eye on our daughter through her travels in the school system, so she could advocate for her, teach her how to advocate for herself, etc. And this, this was in Northern California, so a little different than Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think being that active is very helpful and has actually benefited our daughter quite a bit. And would you take the mindset that too many parents have kind of sat by the wayside? And I know this is not an entrepreneurial chat, but it kind of leads, to the next question I'm going to get. I mean, does that make sense?
I think, for many years, I'd say 20 years for sure. I'd say a lot of American parents have kind of had a hands-off approach when it came to their children in public schools. Not everyone, you know what I'm saying? But right. I think they trusted that, okay, the teachers and the curriculum, it's good enough. It's going to teach my kid what they need to know. And we found out now, in the past few years, just how much indoctrination actually has been coming through. Right. Yeah. And all this nonsense that they're teaching. So, yeah, we need a lot of parental involvement and oversight to what is going on in the school system with their kids.
100%. And it's really sad because when my dad was a lifetime military guy, he served 23 years and got out when I was in my early teens. And so we moved out to Southern California. And when I joined the school system out there, I was bored. I actually went to my mom and dad. Here's a great example. I figured I'm going to take a German class. I grew up speaking German. I'm thinking easy A, right?
Yeah.
And one of the first tests I got, I failed it, totally flunked it. I'm like, what the hell's up with this? And I showed it to my dad, who was raised by a German, right? Could speak it fluently. He's like, all these answers are right. And we went down to the school together, and the teacher that was teaching the language to the class couldn't really speak the language. She was teaching from the book. And because what I wrote didn't match exactly what was in the book, she was like checking it as wrong. Okay. And it's just like English. They're different dialects, right?
Right.
You can say the same thing in Wisconsin and say it down in Georgia, and you're right. Two different words are used. But anyway, so it was kind of like my early indoctrination to say, all right, school systems out here aren't all that great. But it just over time, it seems like, more and more has leaked in. And that same, and this is where I was going with this. I think what concerns me is that same mentality is starting to has happened with so many other things, right? Congress knows what they're doing. They're going to go and they're going to vote in the best things for us. Well, are they?
No.
Right? Are we just assuming that, or should we get more involved? And for me, I'm raising my hand on the more involved piece, which is how I met you, by going and seeing the new candidates, the old candidates, and being involved at multiple levels, so that when things go well or go bad, I can say, you know what? You need to change this. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. No, totally. I absolutely agree with you. Yep. For sure.
So which kind of leads to where you have raised your hand saying, you know what? I want to get involved. I want to participate. I want to be one of the guys behind the desk, making the changes, representing the Tracys and the Dianes of the world. What kind of led you to that choice?
Again, so about 12 years, I would say I've been closely involved in following in politics, right? But I think what was frustrating to me is we need to bring a small business owner mentality, to government. Politicians don't think the same way that you and I do when we run a business. Not all of them. Again, there are some that do, but the majority of them, right? They just don't think the same way. The most exciting thing that ever happened to me in my life was creating my first job, and that job was from my own self. really all serious, everything that went into creating that first job, from the government regulations stuff to the paperwork you'd file, the incorporating, right, all that stuff, to the accounting and taxes. I mean, there's just so much involved. And then the sales and marketing, getting your first client and contract, managing that revenue. Are you going to reinvest in your company? Are you going to pay yourself a salary? All these things, right, you have to think through. Where these career politicians, they just come and they're like, oh, we need to raise revenue, we're just going to up taxes. We're going to add another tax here, right? We don't think of how we're going to actually add more value and productivity to the economy and really compete for business and industry to come to our state. We're just going to assess property values again, which are artificially higher, to raise more revenue, Right. So they don't, I think it's very short-sighted. They don't think all the way through the problem. And so because we're trapped in the structure of government, if you have bad managers at the top, then we're all going to suffer because of it. And so I just finally got fed up. I said, I can do this much better. I'm going to prove it to everyone. Of course, everyone thought I was crazy, on the inside. I mean, within the Republican Party, everyone was like, who is this guy? Where did you come from? There's no way you're going to get traction. And boy, did I really surprise them.
Nice. And I know you had raised your hand quite some time ago where everyone else is still waiting in the wings. And there are a number of reasons why, and I get it, right? As soon as they raise their hand, they have to start reporting everything. Meanwhile, you're like, I don't care. I'm going to start doing it now. And,
right.
And for me, that almost speaks volumes to the character of the person that is stepping into the ring. Look, I'll follow the rules. I'll follow the rules starting now before everyone else, where everyone else is going, well, I'm going to wait and everything. One of the things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, there's a job to be done. And I said, no one's stepping up to the plate. I believe I have the gifts and talents, given to me by God and my experience and leadership that I can do this. So you're right. I did raise my hand and I got to it. I put my head down and started working.
You started working and been grinding away. That's how we heard about you. And I know most recently, one of the other bigger candidates has raised their hand just at the time of this recording, which is on Constitution Day, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Constitution Day. It's a perfect day to be talking to you. I think she raised her hand just earlier this week.
Yep.
And it seems like the party is like, oh, great. Yeah. I don't get it.
Oh, I completely get it. And I can.
Well, I get it for the wrong reasons, right?
I know you get it. This is my slogan around that. It's selected, not elected. Okay. So the Republican establishment has their selected candidate that they're going to try and force down everyone's throat in Wisconsin, whether you like it or not, regardless if she was in the fight or not in 2020. And she wasn't. I speak truthfully. I don't lie about people. I try to get all my facts straight. Right. And I just really look at what a person has done. I want people to measure what I'm doing based on my work ethic, the value that I'm bringing to Wisconsin. Like you said, that's what we should be looking at. Let my work shine. Okay. Right. I don't need to attack someone else's person or character. I'm not going to sling mud, but I am going to point out the truth and the lies. And the reality is, you're referring to Rebecca Clayfish, is during 2020, during the lockdowns, unconstitutional lockdowns, during the forcing of the mask mandates, which again are right back here again with their kids. We're fighting the same battle.
Right.
And then also the forcing of the COVID shot and tying it to your employment or entry into businesses. I was out there in the forefront immediately on May 2020. So I've been campaigning about 15 months now, but it wasn't campaigning for governor. I say it's fighting for my freedoms. Right. That's what's most important. I recognized the absolute loss of my freedoms. That's what was at stake. That's what motivates me. Every day when I wake up working 12 hours a day for 15 months, I'm not doing it because it's fun. There's other things I'd rather be doing with my time, but I recognize that this is a huge infringement on my freedoms. And without my freedoms, I have nothing.
You're now listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
I'll have nothing, right? And that's what motivates me. So I got in the fight. I went to school board meetings. I advocated on behalf of parents and their children to make masks optional. I said, I warned people in my podcast, my education material. I said, they're going to tie the shot to your employment. Sure enough, that's what they did with the healthcare workers. I went on their behalf and I went and spoke and rallied with them. Rebecca was nowhere to be found during this, right? So my question to everyone who's evaluating her as a potential governor candidate is this. If she knew she was going to run for governor, in the 2022 election, if she knew this, if that was her plan all along, then why wasn't she anywhere to be found in 2020? You think it's a perfect opportunity to demonstrate your leadership, to really be out there vocal. She had a platform. She had 40,000 Facebook, followers, right? A social media presence. She had people on there. She was nowhere to be found in being vocal and front and center, saying this is unconstitutionally wrong. We have to fight for our freedoms, right? Here's the plan. Let's get to it. I was the only one doing that.
100%. And that's where do you go with that? It's just, there it is right there. And I think one of the things for me when it comes to folks, and it's a hot topic. I get it. Politics is like, religion. You usually have your opinions and you're pretty passionate about your opinions, and God love you for that. But when someone says, you know what, I think I'm going to vote for X, whoever X happens to be, and you ask them the simple question, well, why?
Right.
And they can't articulate anything, right? Like you were very simple. It's like, here's the thing. Where was she during this time? Where, here's what I was doing during this time. And I wasn't doing it for, all the bells and whistles and the camera lights. But it was because I was losing my freedoms. I was getting involved. While others are sitting, like we were talking about earlier, are sitting on the sidelines and just, I don't want to use the phrase, but I'm going to use it, being sheeple. There's just being led down the path, one little tick at a time. Well, first I need you to stay at home. Okay, we can do that. Okay, now you can go out of your home, but you got to put stuff over your face. Okay, well, I just want to make sure I'm safe. Okay, now you don't have to worry. You know what I'm saying? It's just,
the narrative over the place, wasn't it?
Oh, it was crazy. And I know we, in the very first couple of weeks, we're like, okay, all right, I think they've got our best interest in mind. It's, these people are dying. I get it. I want to be safe. But then it kept inching further and further and further along. It's okay. Now we're getting a little ridiculous.
Right. It became apparent pretty early on that it wasn't about was about control.
Yeah.
And that's I recognize that early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why this is happening right now in America. For me, it all traces back to the financial situation. See, the United States dollar is long in the tooth on being the reserve currency. It doesn't deserve it anymore. And the new superpower and economic superpower, and they really honestly deserve that, that standard. But I don't think they even want, they don't want a world reserve necessarily, but we should for sure do not get to enjoy the privilege of what we have. I mean, we are so far in debt, everyone in consumer debt, but somehow the dollar still can buy everything, relatively cheap. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they force everyone to buy oil on the dollar. And if you don't, the military comes knocking.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty crazy. I think I was a little bit, I was a little bit naive to that, to the overall links that you've mentioned a couple of times, right? Between the Federal Reserve and the banks and the federal government and some key players on the world stage. Right. And then I was turned on to the book, The Creature of Jekyll Island, by Edward G. Griffin. And I think you've read that too, haven't you?
I have. Can you hear me?
Yep, I sure can.
Okay. Yes, I have completely. It's a great book.
That book was it was a big eye opener for me, right? I mean, it made a lot of connections that I think subconsciously I knew were there, but I hadn't actively sought them out. Right. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes more sense. And then you remember back, and for me, it would have been events like, the Farm Aid, right, as an example, and then the famine in Ethiopia, and all these different events that how they're all woven in. You're like, oh my gosh, it almost makes you not want to believe anything you hear at this point.
It does. You're right. When I give my talks around the state, I kind of do a quick survey by raise a hand. I always say, everyone, we use our credit cards, we pay for things, with cash, but how many people here actually understand how the financial system works?
Mm-hmm.
And I get me one hand that raises. So we're all in the system, how it operates. And so of this, they can also hack it. They can also shortcut it, and also make it work in their favor. Knowledge is power. You have to understand truth. And right now we're in information war where people, they have no idea. So that's why
Uh-oh. Pulled you into the matrix again.
That's so bad here.
Oh.
Are we back?
We're back.
Okay.
I got you on knowledge is in power on the financial system. And if they didn't understand it, they could manipulate it. That's where you were headed with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the, like I said, the owners of the, financial system, they understand how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're able to manipulate it in their favor. But everyone else who is ignorant of the truth, right? They don't understand how it works. That's why so many people are kind of stuck in the rat race. We talk about the other book I read that was great was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. I read that when I was 16 years old. And that was a big eye opener.
Yeah.
And so many Americans, spend money on liabilities and expenses. They don't really understand how to develop assets.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the things, I think I posted it not too long ago on the socials, is that the rich invest first and then spend the rest, while the poor spend first and then invest the rest.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have been turned on to the Rich Dad, Poor Dad 2 decades earlier than I found it, because it was, again, another eye opener.
Yeah, it's just a different mindset that, the rich have versus people that, maybe don't. It's a total mindset. And yeah, so we're trapped.
And it's not like some crazy, secret
No, not really.
society kind of thing. It's just kind of a simple flip of the script. You're like, wow, I never thought about that. I think one of the things that I learned most recently, and then I want to get into giving you an opportunity to talk about your race here. But what I learned about is a specific type of life insurance policy that you can pay into, that you're allowed to borrow from, tax-free.
Yeah.
I learned that at 57 years old.
Don't feel bad. I only learned that a few years ago myself. I mean, that is like, it was a crazy secret. Like, what did you just say? So I can guarantee you, my wife last week went and bought one, and it's like, oh, this is so silly. And the guy was given this presentation. Like, he was like, here's how you can be your own banker. And I got his little book and I read it like overnight. And I'm like, this is brilliant. How do I not know? And it's been around for quite some time. It has. It truly has.
It's crazy. But anyway, got off on a little tangent.
No, that's all right.
But I want to come back. You're running for governor. It's governor, right? Governor of Wisconsin.
Correct.
If folks want to learn more about Jonathan Wichman, help you out, check you out, find out more, see you live somewhere, where do we want to send them to?
All right. First place to go would be wichmanforgovernor.com. That's WICHMANN for governor.com.
Amen. There we go.
Yep.
And definitely, I want folks to go check you out. Absolutely. And form their opinions. I formed mine. Obviously, I'm biased towards one side at this point right now. And here's funny. Before I let you go, I saw, who was it? Oh my gosh. Here it is. General Michael Flynn has dropped an endorsement in your direction.
A video endorsement at that. It was so great of him.
Flipping cool is that?
It's pretty cool.
I'm a big fan of Mr. Flynn. Absolutely.
Me too.
Any final words you want to leave our listeners, our entrepreneurial folks, before we let you go, sir?
Well, I mean, in regards to the race or just business,
anything, business, the race, anything, hit me.
What I would say, in my 36 years on this earth, right? One of the biggest lessons I've ever learned is that don't let fear hold you back. Don't let naysayers guide and direct your life by any means. Because if you have the will, the determination, and you put in the hours, right, learning, you can truly overcome anything. You can really, accomplish a feat. And, again, I can't take much credit for this. I do give all glory to God in this race, because doors have opened for me that really should have never been opened for a no-name guy out of nowhere. That's really who I am. But like you said, in 15 months, I've reached 400,000 people in the state of Wisconsin, right? I reach them every month with my messaging. That's the kind of support base I have. Many counties, one after another, county dropping with leadership teams, ground games building. And again, this all led up to an endorsement from General Michael Flynn. Who worked and served under President Trump.
That's phenomenal, right?
15 months. You just don't hear of this.
No.
Unless you're part of the club somehow, which I'm not. And I'm a total outsider. And that's the God honest truth. I'm a total outsider who's just put in the work and the effort, who loves his country, who loves the state of Wisconsin, doesn't want to see her fall into communism, right? Is willing to stand at all cost and all peril and take the shots, right? That the left liberal media is already taken at me. Yeah. They're calling me, whack jobs and all this stuff, but they can't refute it, because what I've done is I've laid the groundwork and I put out many hours of podcasts. So if you go on my website, you will see the videos, you'll see my plan step by step, right? A Wisconsin first plan, and how I'll restore small businesses, right? The economy, what the deep state really is, how it's working against us, the financial system, like we just covered today with the Federal Reserve. But more importantly, my team and I, we've identified the rhinos, as we call them, within the Republican Party.
Right.
those that are actually working against you. You're donating money to the party, which honestly is a mistake. You shouldn't be donating money to the party. You should be looking at the candidates individually and vetting them. Go, like you said, if they're going speaking somewhere, go to them, ask them the tough questions, see if they dance around it, or if they look you in the eye and answer your question point blank. Or sometimes, like I said, I don't know everything, right? I've done a good job researching, but sometimes I'll say, I don't know, but I'm going to find out for you. Or honestly, if you're the expert, help educate me on this, right? I'm not a hunter, right? I understand the importance of hunting and a balance between natural resources and industry, but if there's something going on in the world of hunting that, that I don't know, that you're seeing, right? Maybe with the gray wolf situation, then inform me. I have enough common sense and logic to, if you give me enough information to work through the problem at hand, to get a good solution that works for everyone. That's my leadership style.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. That's fire. And I'm going to make sure that we get the links to all that down there in the show notes so people can just click right on through and check you out. Jonathan, I definitely appreciate you coming on and hanging out for a while and spending a little time with us.
Oh, thanks. It's been a pleasure, Tracy.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. There you have it, my dark horse friends and family. Jonathan Wichman, candidate for governor here in the great state of Wisconsin, sharing some gems for us. Now, I'm not going to go deep into these and tell you, hey, go listen to this episode, go listen to the Facebook group, but I do want to share a couple of nuggets here with you that I kind of walked away from. Get involved. Are you already involved in things happening in your community? If you're not, then personally, this is my personal opinion, you have no right to bitch. Right? If you want to gripe about what's going on in your community, in your state, in your county, in your country, and you're not standing up and doing anything at all about it, then shut up. Right? And trust me, I've been there. I've been the one that just kind of sat and let others do the thing. I voted for the person that had the right letter next to their name. That's not the right thing to do. You need to get involved. And I don't just mean this from a political standpoint. I mean this from your kids are in school. Maybe you need to get involved with what's happening in their school. Stop bitching about the lessons you think they'd be taught. Get involved. Help guide those lesson plans. You're the parent after all. You're the one that really has the power. All right. And that leads right into the next thought I want to leave you with is step up as soon as you see it's needed. Don't look around and wait for some savior, some person to come riding in on their white horse. Right? And I know as a lot of things are going on in the country right now, people expected somebody, a current president, a past president, a current governor, a past governor, a current mayor, a past mayor, to do something. Meanwhile, they sat on their hands and did nothing themselves. They didn't even do so much as write an email to those that they knew were in power and could make some changes. Nope, they just sat there. And sometimes they would get on social media and bitch and complain. No, you, my friend, are not like that. You are driven dark horse entrepreneur. You, my friend, need to step up as soon as you see it's needed. All right? And that kind of leads into the next one. There's natural flow coming here. The selected, not elected. Learn about that. There's a lot of things happening under the covers in the different races that are going on. Short race, the local races, the long-term races, the big races, obviously the presidential race that happened and all the controversy that happened last year. I don't know what side of the aisle you're on. It doesn't matter. There are things happening under the covers that you, my friend, need to get an understanding of. Do you understand how the delegate process works to help select those that you end up voting for in the first place? If you're shaking your head no even a little bit, maybe you should get out there and read, because it's all about the power of your representatives, and you are giving them that power. And if you are not in their ear, guiding the selections that they're making with that power, then again, my friend, I think you need to sit down and shut up and not be bitching about anything. And when it comes to those people that you do choose to have run, that you choose to put your little tick mark next to or put your little fingerprint on when it comes to voting time, before you go out there and make that tick mark or place that vote, ask where they were during the bad times, when all the craziness was happening last year. What were they doing for you, their constituent, to make your life better, to make your life safer? And if you agree with everything they were doing, make that tick mark. If you don't, find someone you do agree with, right? You know what? And I don't think you're going to find someone that maybe you agree with 100%, but man, God love you if you can find someone you can agree with 80 or 90% versus 10. Find out what they were doing during these bad times. It may enlighten you. It may shock you. Or you may already know the person very well, and you're like, yep, they were doing the right things. More power to them. And then learn about the financial system, right? Read the book I mentioned, The Creature at Jekyll Island. Very enlightening. Learn how to become your own banker. Huh? Yeah. Take your power back. That, my friend, is why you should get involved and not let fear hold you back. With that, I'm going to leave you as I always do. Think successfully and take action and get involved. Huh? Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
And you know this!
Thanks for tuning in.
Check us out at www.darkhorseschooling.com.
All right.
My name is Tracy Brinkman.